Like Caitlin Clark is in some serious hot water with WNBA players over this.
All right, so Caitlin Clark has emerged as the WNBA's most hated player. Here's the worst part. She didn't even set foot on the court to deserve this animosity. 98% of players voted in favor of strike authorization for these important CBA talks. However, it seems that everyone and their mother believes they know exactly who makes up the 2% of voters who did not cast a ballot. And you know what? The top star in the league is being completely destroyed on every social media site you can imagine. Furthermore, the alleged proof against her is more flimsy than a house of cards during a hurricane. Here's what's truly bothering me at the moment. Since when did casting your vote based on your conscience and personal convictions turn into a crime worthy of public execution?
The latest that we have in the WNBA CBA negotiation. Now, we heard Caitlin Clark speak on the CBA, and I think that's very noteworthy because Caitlin Clark is not going to be the person that steps up and is incredibly outspoken about every single issue that may come forward to her. Of course, she'll touch on things that are important when she has media availability, press conferences, practice scrums, whatever it might be. But Caitlin Clark isn't going to be the most active person on social media speaking out for or against certain things. So when Caitlin Clark says something, you know that it is thoughtful. You know that it has undergone a lot of thought. You know that she knows, we all know, that when Caitlin Clark says anything.
Let me explain what just happened in the WNBA because things have gotten so out of hand. To be honest, it's astounding. The Players' Union recently made the huge statement that, should these CBA talks fail, they have formally authorized a possible strike. And I mean utterly crushing when I say that the support was tremendous. This vote was cast by 93% of all players, which is an amazing turnout by any measure. A startling 98% of voters approved strike permission. Take a moment to consider that. That goes beyond oneness. In essence, everyone in the league is saying that if they don't, they're willing to give up everything they love. Obtain their demands at the negotiating table. However, this is precisely the point at which everything runs entirely out of control and becomes really messy. Only 2% of voters cast a no vote. The whole basketball community instantly concluded they knew exactly who that 2% was, even in the absence of any concrete proof, leaked information, or official confirmation. And their target, league spokesperson Caitlin Clark.
Did Caitlin Clark vote in favor of the WNBA strike? Fans think they've figured it out. Now it says WNBA players move closer to edge as the labor talks drag on to resurface. It said the WNBA collective bargaining negotiation are no longer seemingly quietly in the background. They are now firmly in the open, with players making it clear that they are prepared to escalate if talks continue to stall. So from my understanding, if they strike, that is the ultimate F you to the owners, bruh. Now on Thursday, the Women's Basketball Players Association announced that its executive committee has been authorized to call a strike.
Now, let's take a step back and truly grasp what this strike permission actually means in practical terms before delving headfirst into why this claim is utterly crazy. This isn't an instant announcement that a strike is taking place. This does not imply that players won't attend tomorrow's practice or games. In actuality, this license gives the Players' Union Executive Committee the legitimate right and authority to declare a strike if they believe that talks are failing miserably. Nowhere. In essence, it is a strategic weapon in their armory and a tool for negotiations. They do this to demonstrate to the league's ownership and administration that players take their demands very seriously and are prepared to escalate the situation to the nuclear option if needed. This helps to put things in perspective. In its nearly 3 decades of existence, the WNBA has never, ever experienced a player strike. Thus, this is a really significant issue. Nobody has ever traveled across this entirely uncharted terrain.
Historic vote, WNBA players overwhelmingly approved a strike authorization. 93% of players participated in the vote, and of those 93% of players, 98% voted yes. Now hold up. Before you work yourself up, this does not mean that a strike is happening right now, but it does mean that players have the right to call a strike if they feel that labor negotiations are breaking down. So why does this matter? Players and the league remain far apart on several key issues. Among them are revenue sharing, free agency rules, retirement benefits, and family planning support. Breanna Stewart said she would welcome help from NBA Commissioner Adam Silver at the bargaining table, which can be looked at as an indication that negotiations are not progressing in a constructive manner. The league, meanwhile, says negotiations are ongoing and points to proposed increases in salaries and revenue sharing to support their characterization that they're committed to getting it.
The topics being discussed in these talks are enormous and crucial to the league's future. The most significant and divisive topic on the list is revenue sharing. Players want their compensation to be directly correlated with a portion of league earnings. Because the NBA is still losing money and has been accruing significant debt for literally decades, the owners are fighting back hard and saying absolutely not, just as NBA players have enjoyed for decades. Another significant source of contention that is giving everyone concerned issues is free agency regulations. In addition, there are retirement benefits, full family planning assistance, and suitable lodging during the season. Players are competing fiercely for all of these justifiable, acceptable goals. To be honest, nobody with half a brain is claiming that athletes don't deserve these things, or that they aren't significant. Given their financial circumstances, the league's ability to supply all of this at this time, and the players' sincere willingness to risk a total work stoppage in order to achieve their demands are the true issues causing all of the tension.
Very high level, and I think the most important thing for myself, thinking about these CBA negotiations, this is the biggest money the WNBA has ever seen, and it's not something that can be messed up, and we're going to fight for everything that we deserve, but at the same time, we need to play basketball. That's what our fans crave, and that's what all of you crave as well, is you want the product on the floor. And at the end of the day, that's how you make the money, that's how you're marketable, that's what the fans get excited about, that's what the fans want to show up for. So, it's business and it's a negotiation, and there has to be compromise on both sides, and, we're starting to get down to the wire of it, and it's become really important, and obviously I want to help in any way I can, and I tried to educate myself the best I can. Obviously I can't speak to every single number, it's pretty complicated, but I think there are different things that we can find ways to say, no, we certainly deserve that, and we're not going to compromise on that, and then other things that we can probably compromise on. But like I said, this is the biggest moment in the history of the WNBA, and I don't want that to be forgotten.
What on earth is the source of this accusation against Caitlin Clark? During USA basketball training camp, she took part in a media availability session when she candidly discussed the CBA discussions and offered her opinions on the matter. And it seems that people have concluded with absolute certainty that she must be one of the holdouts who voted no based only on what she stated in that interview. This is when the entire conspiracy theory utterly collapses if you think about it for more than 5 seconds and use simple logic. So let's dissect what she actually said word for word. I'm quoting Caitlin when she says, "This is the biggest event the WNBA has ever seen, and it's not anything that can go wrong." According to her, athletes must continue playing basketball because that is what fans want to see and expect, even though they will fight tenaciously for all they deserve. "That's how you earn money," she said. "That's how you successfully promote the league. Fans attend for that reason." She admitted that it's a difficult business transaction that calls for mutual understanding and compromise. She also constantly stressed that this is the most significant moment in league history and that she does not want this momentum or chance to be lost or squandered. She continued, "It's important to find a way to play out next season because the fans and everyone who came before us deserve that." Now, after carefully going over the entire transcript, where is the smoking gun evidence? Where does she state clearly that she will not back a strike? Where is the part where she claims that players don't deserve what they're requesting? It's nowhere to be found. In actuality, what she said was quite insightful, nuanced, and measured. She acknowledged that the negotiations were crucial. According to her, athletes have every right to battle for their goals. In any negotiation, she added, compromise is essential, and losing a whole season would be disastrous for all parties. That is neither provocative nor contentious. That is genuinely mature and rational, reflecting. However, the internet detectives took that measured response and concluded that Caitlin must have voted against strike permission, Thus, it seems that being sensible and strategic is suddenly hard proof that you are a traitor to your fellow players. On social media, one fan actually wrote, "Caitlin Clark most likely belonged to the 2% of people who voted against." Based on what specific evidence? Based on her opinion that compromise is required in negotiations and that playing basketball is significant. The blazing gun evidence is that. We are using that as evidence. This is what makes the entire charge so ludicrous. It's practically absurd. The purpose of the vote was to be anonymous for a very significant purpose. Nobody knows who voted which way except the real players themselves and the union leadership who conducted the ballot. Regarding who voted against, there has been no formal confirmation at all. No insider information was leaked. There are no reliable stories from reporters using real sources. Just conjecture and supposition based on a single media source in which Caitlin made statements that most reasonable people would likely concur with. However, this hasn't stopped others from viciously attacking her online and completely ruining her name. The remarks made beneath news stories regarding the circumstance are incredibly cruel and offensive. Naturally, Caitlin cast a no vote. Her bank account and herself are her main priorities. At last, she is revealing her actual nature. The other players are completely unimportant to her. All she is concerned about is safeguarding her endorsement earnings. The charges are spreading like wildfire, and none of them are supported by anything substantial. It's guilt by assumption at its worst. It's making a decision about someone's guilt and then frantically searching for evidence to back up your preconceived notions.